Get started, and I'll say just a few words of introduction. My name is Bradley Flam. I'm the Director of the Office of Sustainability here at Westchester University. And I'm very happy to welcome all of you to this, the sixth lecture in our Fall 2021 Sustainability Research and Practice Seminar. We have had 5 fascinating presentations already. We have 6 more following this one. So if you have not attended any of them yet this semester, we encourage you to come back next Wednesday and every Wednesday through the end of the semester, except for Thanksgiving weekend, of course, for additional lectures from Westchester University faculty, students, and staff. So once again, thank you for joining us. And now let's focus on today's presentation. I'd like to introduce and pass the digital floor to Professor Hadih Deedat, who will introduce himself and his collaborators on this presentation. Thank you, Hadih.
Thank you, Brad, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with Ms. Frida Navarro and Ms. Donna Phillip, 2 of our Philadelphia social work students. And we are very excited about the opportunity to present our research. So we will start off with brief introductions. So I am Dr. Hadih Deedat. I am an assistant professor of social work at Westchester University. I have extensive experience working with marginalized populations, including immigrant populations and families involved in the child welfare system here in the United States. So Ms. Frida will introduce herself. Frida, are you here?
So sorry. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Frida Navarro, and I am an undergraduate social work student at Westchester at the Philadelphia campus. I hold my associate degrees in behavioral health human services, and I have experience working with older adults.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Phillip. I am also an undergraduate social work student at Westchester Philadelphia campus. I also hold an associate degree in behavioral health and human services. I do have some experience working with individuals with drug and alcohol struggles.
Okay, thank you for the introductions, Donna and Frida. So we have 2 main purposes for today's presentation. And the first one is to dissect the impacts of natural disasters and climate change on Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC communities. And the second one is to discuss the role of sustainability and the intersection that it has with social work in attempting to reduce the impacts of climate change and natural disasters on BIPOC communities. So on the screen right now, you will see all kinds of disasters, natural disasters that occur across the globe. Ranging from wildfires to flooding, hurricanes, droughts, and so many more. And there are so many natural disasters that happen globally, but here we have a list of some common natural disasters that we know in the US and elsewhere. And these include earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, famines and droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes, and cyclones, extreme precipitation and flooding, extreme temperature, including extreme heat and extreme cold temperatures, and wildfires. This year alone, there have been more than 200 major disasters happening or that have happened globally. And they cut across the world, the 4 corners of the world, from the western droughts and heat waves in California to the wildfires and flooding in Chile and India and tropical cyclones in Mozambique, which is in Africa.
Here, we would see that the impact has reached our backyard. This slide shows a picture of the recent storm, Ida, the hurricane that hit us. To us, it seemed large, but it pretty much is a small scale. Just imagine people living with this on a continuous basis that comes ever so often, every couple of months, how these natural disasters would impact them. Looking at natural disasters, the choice of the term natural disasters reflects a historical idea that these events, even though they may be random, exceptional events and acts of nature, except for droughts, disasters are seen as by human as sudden natural events. The triggers of some disasters, such as earthquakes, tropical cyclones, and landslides, can be rapid. In most cases, however, disaster risk accumulation is slow and continuous over time and triggered by incremental changes influenced by everyday environmental inappropriate decisions by human actions.
Here are some human activities that warm the climate and elevate natural disaster risks. Burning of fossil fuels, pollution, mining, deforestation, urbanization, shifts in vegetation patterns, and many others. Example of direct relationship between climate warming and natural disasters, according to the World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Resolution 2021, are more water vapor in the atmosphere has exacerbated extreme rainfall and flooding. Warming oceans have affected the frequency and severity of the most intense tropical storms. Climate change has increased extreme sea level events associated with some tropical cyclones.
And here is a code red, a warning actually from the United Nations based on a recent report that was released by the International Panel on Climate Change. So this report came in earlier, just 2 months ago. And it was so damning and so scary that the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, called it a code red for humanity. And here we have a video, a snapshot of why we are now in that code red, why we should be very careful and try to take steps to address the increase in climate temperature. So I'll show the video. Hopefully it can show easily. If not, I have to switch my screens. Okay, let me go and switch. Okay, so here is the video. I'm going to start it from the beginning. Can you hear the volume? Can you hear? No?
No,
No.
Can you hear it? No?
no.
Okay. All right. I have to stop this and maybe try to share it another way. Let me see how we can do with this video. Okay. This is going to be harder. Yeah, I'm going to find another way to show this video, unfortunately. But could you see the screen when I was sharing the video? Let me see if I can.
Yeah, we were seeing it then. You could see the
Can you
video.
see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's try it this way to see if you can hear. Can you hear it?
No.
No. Okay.
Mayor
the
is
video-
asking if you have the box for sharing sound clicked. When you
Oh.
share screen, there's a box down to the left when you click share screen.
Okay. So here is the okay, share sound. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Let me try that and hopefully this works.
With further warming in the coming years, we expect to see new extremes that are unprecedented in magnitude, frequency, timing, or in regions that have never encountered those types of extremes.
You've been telling us for over 3 decades of the dangers of allowing the planet to warm. The world listened, but didn't hear.
It is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and the land. We confirm that human-caused emissions of greenhouse gases are the main driver of global warming.
Climate change is here now, but we are also here now. And if we don't act, who will?
So that was a snapshot of the rising climate temperature and the fact that the impacts are very severe, not only in one part of the world, but globally. Every corner of the world is dealing with the impacts of climate change and the disasters associated with them. So here we will directly look at some of the impacts of climate change, but look at natural disasters, but look at it from a global context. So deaths from natural disasters have largely declined over the years, but thanks because of some early warning systems and disaster management systems that have been put in place by governments and other nonprofit organizations across the world. But still, natural disasters continue to claim thousands of human lives every year. An average of 20,000 deaths are reported globally. This report actually between 2010 and 2019, average of 20,000, which is a huge loss of fatalities that we cannot overlook. Economic losses have also spiked, sevenfold between 1970 and 2019, an average of $49 million. In the 1970s, now we are looking at 383 million per day globally in the last 11 years. And disasters actually affect everyone. It doesn't, climate warming, for example, affects everyone. But some people are affected more, so they don't affect all of us equally. If we are looking at those who are at the worst end of who receive the worst impacts or experience the worst consequences of global warming, include those in marginalized communities, those who are poor. And there are high death tolls, among individuals living in low to middle income countries. And also more than 91% of all disaster-related deaths actually occur in developing countries. So here is a graph or two graphs showing the impacts of disasters in the United States. And this, we are looking at both the human impact and also economic impact. So as you can see on the left side of the screen, this is deaths or fatalities resulting from natural disasters. As this graph shows, the numbers have significantly declined. So the number of fatalities that occur through disasters have gone down, but it is still one of the main causes of deaths in the US. About more than 8,500 Americans died from heat-related consequences alone. So if we have to add the other disasters, hurricanes, flooding, and so on, we are looking at a very significant high number. On the economic side, though, the numbers haven't declined. Actually, they have gone up. The billion-dollar economic impacts from disasters have been on the rise. So in this year alone, Western drought and heat wave in the West Coast, as well as the California flooding and severe weather in California. And if we come to the East Coast, we can see places, or the Midwest, we can see places like the Eastern severe weather, etc. All these are billion-dollar, disasters. They cost more than $1 billion. A lot of money spent to remedy these disasters.
So here we will take a look at climate change, natural disasters, and the BIPOC communities. BIPOC communities continue to be the most impacted by climate change and natural disasters in the United States. For example, there are more than 8,500 extreme heat-related deaths in a typical year alone, with Blacks the most impacted group. Patnaik et al. 2020 outlined 3 ways that BIPOC communities disappropriately suffer from climate change and its attending natural disasters. They are 1, poor air condition, 2, ocean acidification, 3, natural disasters. Let's look at poor air quality. More than 1 million African Americans live within a half mile of natural gas facilities. More than 6.7 million African Americans live in 91 US countries with oil refineries. Overall, African Americans are 75% more likely than white people to live in fence-lined communities, areas near commercial facilities that produce noise, odor, traffic, or emission that directly affects the population.
The second way that affects the BIPOC community is ocean acidification. This occurs when the natural pH of ocean water is lower due to increased CO2 levels, that is carbon dioxide. It can affect natural plants and animal life. Native American tribes living in the US coast, whose diet and economy primarily rely on seafood, are especially affected socioeconomically. Acidification affects rivers too. The Quinault tribe of Washington, owners of the Quinault Pride Seafood, Land and Timber Enterprise, has bemoaned the increased number of dead fish washing ashore due to low oxygen levels in the rivers. Also, the contaminated water affects Native American cultures. Number 3 is natural disasters. In a study conducted by Rice University and the University of Pittsburgh in 2018 found that dispersal of government aid in the aftermath of natural disasters fails proportionally support minorities and low-income communities affected by natural disasters. White families living in areas with about 100,000 in damage saw a wealth increase of about 26,000 compared to 19,000 for Black families living in the same area. White families in areas with about 10 billion in damages saw a wealth increase of nearly 126,000 compared to a wealth decrease of about 27,000 for Black families. BIPOC community suffer from the consequences of tropical storm due to inadequate infrastructure and lack of proper insurance. Also, minorities population are more likely to live near industrial facilities, leaving them at higher risk for chemical spill and toxic leaks resulting from tropical storms.
So here we want to look at more climate change impacts on BIPOC communities. As Frida and Donna already demonstrated, Black and other marginalized populations suffer most from natural disasters and climate warming issues. So here is a report from NPR, a recent report. This is from 2019, and they were looking at how the rising heat in the summer, here in the U.S., how that affects, BIPOC community, especially Black communities in the U.S. I hope this audio will play. If not, I will go and fix it again. So if anyone
in big cities across the U.S.
Did anyone hear
Yes.
the sound? Okay, awesome.
Low-income neighborhoods are hotter than wealthier ones. That's the finding of a joint investigation by NPR and the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism at the University of Maryland. As NPR's Meg Anderson reports, that heat can be deadly.
In a vacant lot in her West Baltimore neighborhood, Shakira Franklin is describing the first asthma attack she's had in nearly 5 years. It happened a few days earlier when temperatures hit 100 degrees.
In this neighborhood, that feels like 110.
For Franklin, that's a big deal. Her asthma is triggered by heat.
I didn't really come outside, but I had to go to work. And before I know it, I was gasping for air.
Breathing felt like trying to drink water through a pinched straw.
You're gasping at this point. You're trying to bring your air through as much as you can.
She says when she drives out of her neighborhood to her job by the city's harbor, she can actually feel the breeze get cooler.
Like, I can actually feel me riding out of the heat. Like, when I get to a certain place, when I'm on my way, I'll turn off my air and I'll roll my windows down to save gas.
And so people know that?
Yeah, when you're from this area, yeah, you know it.
Franklin isn't imagining that change in temperature. Her neighborhood, Franklin Square, no relation to her name, is hotter than about 2/3 of the neighborhoods in Baltimore. It's also in one of the city's poorer areas. That's according to an analysis by NPR and the Howard Center. Citywide in Baltimore, the hottest neighborhoods can differ by as much as 10 degrees from the coolest, and the hottest parts of the city also have higher rates of poverty. We wanted to see just how common that pattern is across the country. We mapped 97 major U.S. cities by heat and income. The vast majority have that same pattern to varying degrees, and more than 2/3 had an even stronger link between heat and income than Baltimore did. That matters because heat can have potentially fatal consequences, and our analysis shows the people exposed to that extra heat in the hottest parts of town are often the city's poorest and disproportionately people of color. On top of that, cities already tend to be hotter than their rural surroundings.
If you have less green cover, you will almost always have higher temperatures and greater exposure to heat.
Brian Stone, director of the Urban Climate Lab at the Georgia Institute of Technology, says trees and green space cool the air and provide shade. Pavement, on the other hand, absorbs heat and holds it in. At night, a large city can be as much as 22 degrees warmer than its surroundings. Plus, common features of cities like major roadways create even.
So this audio goes on to talk about the relationship between poverty, marginalization, and the impacts of climate change. And as you can see in this graph, in Baltimore, the very deep red areas, there are more, people, marginalized people in these communities, Black, Native Americans, and other people of color living in these areas. Due to their low income, they experience more heat, as we heard on the audio, because of urbanization, other practices, including gentrification and other developmental causes that make BIPOC communities suffer more in cities and elsewhere.
In big cities across the U.S.,
So now we want to look at a recent report from the Washington Post. This one came out just a couple of weeks ago, and they reported on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, an analysis that they provided, looking at the relationship between racial minorities or race and global temperatures. So the analysis painted a very grim picture for the US, where it said that minorities will continue to suffer disproportionately if the global temperature continues to rise, or if it rises above a certain level. So 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit is where, there is a fear that if the global temperature rises more than 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, BIPOC communities will actually suffer. The consequences will be very detrimental to BIPOC communities. But as of today, the climate has warmed up about 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So which is basically half of that threshold, that red, the cold red temperature that we are all scared of. So the numbers are increasing significantly, and things need to be done. If the heat, the climate temperature continues to rise, this is what the EPA is saying. Native Americans and Alaska Indians will be 48% more likely than other groups to live in areas that will be inundated by flooding from sea level rise, meaning they will suffer a lot because of where they live. Similarly, Latinos will be 43% more likely to live in communities that will lose work hours because of intense heat if the climate continues to warm up. And Black people will be 40% more likely than other groups to live in places where extreme temperatures will cause more deaths, suffering significantly higher mortality rates. So these groups, these marginalized groups, racial minority groups are already suffering. But if the temperature continues to rise and get to that 3.6 degree Fahrenheit increase, Native Americans, Latinos, Black communities, they will suffer some severe consequences, including higher mortality rates. And if it continues, again, the heat-related deaths alone will skyrocket from the current 8,500 casualties per year to nearly 60,000 by 2050. This is part of the report issued. And BIPOC populations in Arizona, Southern California, and Southwest Texas are being hit the hardest. And this report is from the Atlantic Council's Adrian Ash Rockefeller Foundation Resilience Center. So we have seen, so far we have talked about natural disasters, climate change or climate warming, and all the impact that they are having on us. So what can we do? What can we do to make sure that marginalized communities, Black, Indigenous, people of color, they are protected. They are able to live a life, safe from natural disasters, the climate change, and all the consequences that come with those. And sustainability is the best way to go. And according to the United Nations, sustainability is the attempt to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Our own Westchester University, the Office of Sustainability, sees sustainability as ensuring that all people today and into the future can live in healthy communities and participate in productive local economies without sacrificing environmental integrity. So we see from the global level or the international level, UN is advocating and really emphasizing the need for sustainability. And when we come way down to our local level, our local community, Westchester University, the emphasis is very clear. We need to practice sustainability to save ourselves and the future generations. So the three of us are social workers. Donna, Frida, and myself, we are all social workers. So we wanted to look at how social work and sustainability intersect. And the primary mission of the social work profession is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic human needs of all people, with particular attention to the needs and empowerment of people who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. And when we talk about these people, BIPOC communities fall right into this category. And the mission of social work intersects with several of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. All 17 of them, social workers, we can relate to them, we can put them into practice. But for the purposes of this presentation, we are looking at the Sustainable Development Goal 10, which emphasizes reduce inequalities, and SDG 13, which looks at, or which focuses on climate action. These are very important to our discussion. So first, let's look at Sustainable Development Goal 10, and there are many sub-goals within this broader goal of making sure that inequalities are addressed at home and abroad. So goal 10.2 says by 2030, we hope the world can empower and promote the social, economic, and political inclusion of all, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or economic or other status. 10.3 says to ensure equal opportunity and reduce inequalities of outcome, including by eliminating discriminatory laws, policies, practices, and promoting appropriate legislation, policies, and action in this regard. The third sub-goal that we included here is to adopt policies, especially fiscal, wage, and social protection policies, and progressively achieve greater equality. Now, when we look at Sustainable Development Goal 13, which focuses on climate change, it emphasizes the need to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards and natural disasters in all countries. 13.2 looks at integrating climate change measures into national policies, strategies, and planning. And finally, 13.3 talks about improving education, awareness raising, and human and institutional capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. So we wanted to just give those background, right, on Sustainable Development Goal 10 and 13, and how social workers can use those development goals, sustainable development goals, to ensure that BIPOC communities are protected and are safe from natural disasters and climate change. So the next slides will talk about social workers' role in this fight.
So we definitely see that we have to continue working as social workers. And our goal is to assist in reducing inequalities and ensuring no one is left behind. We advocate for equitability, distribution, and access to government disaster relief for BIPOC communities. Fight against environmental racism or systemic racism, whereby BIPOC communities disappropriately suffer hazards through policies and practices force BIPOC communities to live in proximity to severe toxic waste, and to continue to fight against environmental discrimination and disparities from inequalities often exacerbated by disasters and climate change crisis.
Professor Deedat already talked about what our work is, working with people. We have to help everybody, but focus especially in people who are vulnerable. So what action we have to take right now? We must look at disaster as a wake-up call, educate students, colleagues, and the general population on the correct status of climate change. Sensitize individuals and community on climate change and natural disaster mitigation practices. Organize BIPOC communities, especially to adopt climate and environmentally friendly practices, including tree planting in the communities. Advocate for equitable BIPOC representation on climate policy making bodies and positions. Pursue grassroots empowerment of BIPOC communities to challenge climate and environmentally unfriendly policies, laws, and practices.
And with this, we want to, drive home the key points from this presentation. And we believe that, as it was presented by Donna earlier on, most natural disasters are a result of climate change, right? And human activities are largely responsible for these. Those disasters may be termed as natural, but human activities are the factors, the driving factors that cause these disasters. BIPOC communities are disproportionately impacted by natural disasters and climate change. Also, everyone can play an integral role in attaining all the 17 SDGs, especially the SDGs that were of focus to this presentation, 10 and 13. So social workers will always lead the charge in ensuring that we are fighting against all forms of inequalities and also fighting against climate warming or global warming. The solutions to climate change must be human activities driven. Just as our human activities warm up the planet and cause most of the natural disasters, the solutions are also human. We can tackle these issues. And finally, climate change mitigation efforts require an all hands on deck approach with strong foundation. Because without a strong foundation, the whole effort will crumble, just as we see in this house of cards. There is the need for a strong foundation. Without that, everything we do will crumble. And with that, we thank you for being here. Here are the references, and then here are our contact information. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Clapping now.
Thank you, Professor Deedat. and Donna Phillip and Frida Navarro.
Thank
It's
you.
about 12:40, and we have about 10 minutes for questions and answers. I know on our end here at Sykes, there are some questions, but we're happy to let some of the Zoom participants start.
So, any questions for Frida, Dana, or myself?
Well, if I may, I'll jump in. I'm curious if you can talk about the role of social workers recently in Philadelphia and in other parts of the Mid-Atlantic that suffered impacts of Hurricane Ida. How did social workers play a role in responding to that climate change exacerbated natural disaster?
Yeah, from the classroom perspective alone, I can say that I had a discussion with, and I teach 4 classes. Each class, and the class was actually canceled, as we know. And I brought it to the classroom to discuss with my students, like, here we are, and these are the remnants of Ida. So when it started in Louisiana, those places suffered even most. So let's look at just the remnants of the hurricane and what has happened. So imagine those of us who have access to news, television and other places. So we have to have discussion about those who do not even have access to, media to be able to track the disaster, the hurricane and so on. So we have to be thinking about those communities because they are even more marginalized. And social worker, we do have those conversations because we are always thinking about those marginalized and those that do not get the needed attention, right? So from a classroom alone, we did have discussions on that for students to explore and think broadly about how Hurricane Ida impacted people in Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and the other East Coast areas impacted by Ida. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I enjoyed it. I wanted to ask, this is such a, and I don't know if it's just me today, but it can be really sad and depressing to learn about all this, but so important. It impacts our work. I was wondering how each of you finds hope to continue to do this work because it's so important, but where does that come from to kind of carry on?
For me, I believe that we need to continue educating people and continue educating ourselves so that we could continue to help people. And when you see things like this coming home, like I said, it came to Philadelphia, where in this region, we get storms, but the flooding and the continuous heavy rains and stuff that we have been experiencing is new to us and devastating as it is. I also mentioned for us it was large, but seeing that people have this on a more regular basis and more intense. So for me, like continue to educate ourselves and to educate communities is one of the big points.
I want to say that what happened in Philadelphia wake me up too, because it never happened before. So I think that we have to empower ourselves and empower social workers, educating them to know, to fight for how to protect our environment. So when social work go and do their assessment, do the assessment of the environment around people, to what condition they are living, how it is affecting them. So I think we have to educate our social worker students too.
And for me, what keeps me going is that I look at the US and the fact that it has some of the best monitoring and tracking systems and everything. And so communities in the US get hit by a hurricane and other natural disasters. And I think back to where I come from in Ghana, where there is little to no tracking system, no proper mitigation efforts, and that keeps me going. That makes me really want to even know more about natural disasters and use the knowledge experience I gained from here to actually help those I know back in Ghana and tell them, hey, this is what we do if there's a storm coming. This is what we do when we do. I came to this country to learn about the fact that if there is a huge storm, you must go to the lowest level of your home, maybe to the basement or somewhere more secure. I never learned about it in Ghana, maybe because I never experienced it. But with the global warming and disasters becoming more prevalent across the world and more pervasive, that keeps me going. It makes me want to learn more from here and impart that knowledge and skills, whatever I can, to countries that do not have those opportunities, like my country, Ghana.
I have to run off to teach, but I just wanted to thank you for your presentation. And I also just put in the chat that we need a new term because natural disaster is just a hypocritical term anymore. And, just another example of, human beings using this tool language that they've developed to escape from their own responsibility for things. So thanks again.
Agreed, great point, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
If I can jump in one more time, I think that there are some of us in this presentation participating who don't have a background in social work. So this has been very helpful, and I want to thank the three of you for sharing your background and your knowledge on this topic. I'm wondering if you could, for those of us who are not as familiar with the profession, tell us a bit about where social workers, graduates of the undergraduate and graduate social work departments at Westchester University, where do they end up professionally? What types of organizations are they working for? And in what circumstances will they be directly working on the issues that you talked about today?
Yeah, thank you, Brad, again. And so social workers work in a variety of positions and settings, including those in governmental and non-governmental, and so sometimes even private practice, a lot. So one thing that social workers do, a lot of social workers end up doing is working with public agencies. Or even private agencies in communities, right? So within communities, you will find social workers working in healthcare settings, in social services agencies, in mental health and other areas, child welfare and so on. And the way social workers can impact, climate change and, to fight against global warming and natural disasters is because they work directly with individuals, groups, and sometimes the larger communities and even at the state level, national level, etc., to advocate for policies, fair policies, right, or equitable policies at the national level or at the policy-making level. They can do that. And those who work at the micro level, working one-on-one with individuals, individuals in the BIPOC communities, Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color, those working with those individuals, social workers who work with those individuals, can educate them more about, global warming, educate them more about, the disasters and everything that's going on. to mitigate against the consequences of global warming and so on. So let's take the heat waves, for example. There are social workers who do home visits. They visit adult homes and children, etc. during the summer. In the winter, social workers go to homes, do home visits, and they are able to educate their clients about hypothermia or hypothermia, educate them about the rising temperatures and things like that, and any ways that we can do to reduce. So social workers are educators. We have several roles that we play, and one of them is being educators, where we educate our clients, share the knowledge and resources that we have with them, so they can be better prepared and be in a better position to take care of themselves during crisis or during disasters and so on. So we do a whole lot of work from grassroots level all the way to the national level, advocating for policy change, etc.
Thank you. It's a little after 12:50, and we normally pause at this point because many people have to leave to prepare for a class or another meeting. But for those of you still here, please join us in thanking our three presenters today for a fascinating talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.